In today's weekly Forex forecast, we are talking about the DXY, the euro, the pound, the dollar yen, and also gold. Plus, I'm going to show you a level on the DXY that goes back over a decade that could be very influential over the coming weeks. So you're going to want to stick around for that. So hey everyone, my name is Justin Bennett with Daily Price Action, and this video is sponsored by Blueberry Markets. If you want to sign up with them and grab a 30% deposit bonus with my link, be sure to do so using the link in the description below. I've known those guys for 8 years. They're an incredible group of people and also an amazing broker. All right, so looking at the DXY first and foremost. So the daily time frame, guys, really not a lot of change since we last talked about it. We have the market coming off of this 97.7 level down here that we've talked about recently. You can see where April, we got a very close call to that level, didn't quite test it though. And as I've shown in previous videos too, this level goes back to 2022 and it is very precise back there in that price action. So it was likely, once we saw the market kind of breaking down here on this candle, what I mentioned there was that we could get the sweep of this low here in April in a retest of 97.7, which we did get on Thursday and Friday. Now, let's talk about this level down here that I was looking at the charts the other day and moving out here to the weekly time frame. In fact, I'm going to go to the 2-week here and show you a trend line, or really a channel that goes back all the way back here to 2011. And what you'll notice here is that off of this low from down here, okay, let me move this up just to make sure you guys can see it. But off of this low right back here, you've got this low through here, and now this current low, or very close to it, right around 97.7. And then you also have these two highs right back here. Now you could technically drag this over here to this high, and it would also extend back here to these highs. Okay, so a very well-defined channel going back over a decade. And obviously this middle level here is the mid-range of this channel. You can see where it was influential through here, a lot of highs in this area, also this high. Okay, so a really nice channel here for the DXY, and this makes the 97.7 area even more significant going forward. So we knew that 97.7 was going to be a significant level simply because we had a lot of lows back here in 2020. Okay, so you can see the lows right back here. This is exactly where we're getting the bounce here so far from the DXY. And this does not mean, guys, that the market is going to move higher from here. I want to make sure that we're clear on that, because like I've said in previous videos, the only way that this market shows breakout potential, in my opinion, is it has to get back above levels like this here. Okay, and really, if we look at this here on the daily, what you're going to notice is that we've got a lot of lows here that have built up now that we've had the breakdown. Okay, so what you would be looking for is really something like this. Okay, so going into next week, you've got resistance up here at the closing price. Once again, here on this low, you can see where Friday did fill the gap that was formed between Wednesday and Thursday. So we got the gap fill here, and right now the market is just range bound. Okay, so we've got support coming in down here at 97.7, maybe just below. We've got resistance coming in up here. Let's see, this comes in right around 98.30 or so. And then, of course, you have this trend line up here off of that February high. So in order for the DXY to really break out, okay, because again, we know that this is a significant confluence of support down here, but that alone doesn't mean that this market is likely to reverse. In order to see that, we need to see the DXY start to break out from this trend line here from February. And we also need to see it get above levels like this back here around 98.30. Okay, so this pocket right through here, if we see the DXY get above here, then we've got higher targets to look for, okay? Now, on the flip side, of course, if we see the DXY break down from here and start to trade well below here on the high time frames, and that's going to be key. It has to be high time frames, guys. 4-hour close is not going to cut it when you're dealing with a level that goes back over a decade. If we get below here, then we're looking at that 95 area, okay? So decision time right now, guys, for the DXY. We will see what we get next week. Although when I look at the pound, things like that, I do kind of think if I had to guess which way this might go, I would say a break higher does seem more likely. But again, I am not going to trade this until we get that confirmed breakout. Okay, so next let's take a look at the euro. And not a whole lot to look at here, if I'm being honest. I mean, we have the market breaking above 115.30, yes. However, with the DXY coming into that support area we just looked at, I think you've got to be really careful if you're trying to look for longs up here, right? Because if you're looking for longs here on the euro, you're essentially shorting the DXY into this area down here between 97.30 and 97.70. And again, we just looked at the 2-week time frame, right? You look at this here, and is this something that you want to short into, right? Do you want to short the DXY into this? And if you're long in the euro here, you're essentially doing just that. Okay, so I can't sit here and say that I like the idea of longing this, even though it did break out on Friday. So we'll see what we get. We also have this trend line down here to watch. So I would say if we see the DXY breaking that trend line we just looked at, and also above that 98.30 level, if we get those two things and the euro is breaking down from areas like this, then we could have a top on our hands, okay? But I'm not going to short this until we get some type of sustained break below here to really give that confirmation. And as for resistance, we do have this area up here around 116.60 or so. All right, so that's really it for the euro. Not a whole lot going on here again, even though it did, slightly break out here on Friday or on Thursday, really, holding above that. I can't really, support the idea of buying this just because, again, you would be shorting the DXY into that confluence of support there. So same thing for the pound. And I wanted to bring up the RSI once again, guys. We talked about this before, but the one thing I'm watching right now for the pound, and it's yet to be fully confirmed, but the price action, so far this year over the past few months looks very similar to what we saw in 2024. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to play out the same, okay? And I have to make that very clear. Even though we are seeing a similar structure here, even the RSI, like I said recently, with this bearish divergence back here, right? Bearish divergence, the market was carving higher highs back here, higher highs once again as the RSI is coming off. Okay, so even though we are getting this, so far, it does look very similar to 2024, we don't yet have full confirmation. Now, as you guys know, I was shorting this with an early entry last week. We didn't quite get follow through though from this pattern because like I've said recently too, the issue with trend lines, and this is why I always favor horizontals over trend lines, is that a trend line here could technically be drawn like this, or you could draw it up here a little bit higher. And technically, both of these would be valid. And you might be looking at this and saying, well, you're cutting off this wick, and that doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't matter if you're cutting off a wick. What matters is if you're cutting off bodies. And this trend line here does not cut off any bodies. You can see support through here, broke down and retested. Okay, so as of right now, it does look, again, very similar to 2024. And when you look at this here and you look at the DXY coming into this support area, it really does make you wonder if we are going to get a significant top forming for the pound. But so far, really no confirmation of that just yet. And I would say when I look at this chart, I said this last week too, but the level to watch going into next week is going to be 134.30. So really, you could look for this this level up here. So let's get rid of this one. And when you just look at this level off of these very lows, okay, so you've got this low back here, you've got this low, and these closing prices, you can see Friday held above it. So when we look at this here, you could make the case that, yes, if we were to get a close below here, right? So close below next week and a retest, you could technically look for, shorts up here in this area on that retest if we get it. But really, to me, this level back here around 134.30, this is going to be the one to watch, to where if we see the pound getting below here, then you really start to have a change in trend where this becomes a failed breakout. Okay, so not a lot to do here on the pound. Really just a range bound market, even though it is still trending higher. You have to respect the range that has developed here, especially with, again, the DXY coming into that significant area. Okay, so let's take a look next at the dollar yen. And if you guys are enjoying this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and also smash that like button because it really does help out these videos. Again, they take hours to make and a few seconds to like and subscribe, so be sure to do so. So looking at the dollar yen, no change here. The market's just been very sideways. This has been a lot of the Forex market recently, which is why, to be honest with you, I've been trading more crypto recently than anything else and doing very well there. So the Forex market right now just isn't all that appealing to me because even though we have seen some trends develop, a lot of the trends are also just very choppy. So looking at the dollar yen, guys, I talked about this one a while back, and this is really kind of a twofold setup for me. What I mean by that is that this chart alone, okay, doesn't really justify trading it. Like if we were to get a break above here, yes, that could be significant or a move back here towards some of these higher levels, but we also saw the same thing back here and it failed. So the yen basket, in my opinion, is going to be the one to watch. And we talked about this before, but I did want to touch on it again just because even though there's no significant change here, in my opinion, this right here, if you're trading the yen, this is what you have to watch. Okay, you have to watch this right now because it's getting to a very interesting point on the chart to where if we get a breakdown from this trend line, which it's kind of looking like we might, this could introduce significant weakness for the yen over the coming weeks, potentially for the rest of the year, to be honest. Because you can see through here, right? Same trend line, guys. I haven't moved anything that we looked at before. You can see resistance back here. We got the breakout. So far, this level is serving as support. Now, the reason I think this could break down, though, is if you look at this secondary trend line down here off the lows, you can see where we have so far seen a breakdown, okay, below this. So support through here, we got a breakdown so far, a couple weeks ago. Now, again, there's nothing on this chart to justify yen weakness just yet, because right now you can see where last week's candle, we got the move up here, the move right back down, and it closed basically break even, okay? So there's nothing here to confirm that this is a failed breakout. Okay, but if we get a week closing below this level right here, closing down here in this area, then this becomes a failed breakout, and you're likely looking at the move down here toward the lows, potentially even this low from back here in 2024. So because this is the yen basket, this is essentially the same as the DXY is for the dollar. That could introduce significant yen weakness to the point where if you're looking at the dollar yen, and let's just say you get a break above 145.40, okay, so this range up here. Let's say the dollar yen starts to break above here, and at the same time, you have the yen basket breaking below here on a weekly closing basis. Closing a week down here, right, you get the dollar yen breaking out. That is going to be a very high probability long here for the dollar yen. Now, other factors play into this as well, like the DXY, okay? So you put all this together, you can see where I'm going with this, where if the DXY starts to also break, above areas like this back here, okay, and this is still a big if, we don't know if it's going to happen, but if we do get a bottom forming down here in this area and the market breaking above here, while the yen basket breaks down on that trend line, and we get the dollar yen breaking out above 145.40, then you can see how all of these things come together for a very high probability setup. Now, nothing is saying that that's going to happen, okay? We could just see the DXY break down. We could see the dollar yen break below 142.40 and target the lows down here. So there is no confirmation yet one way or the other, guys. I want to be very clear about that because I do not want to trade this market while it's just doing this. Maybe this is suitable for some people. This, for me, is not something I necessarily want to trade, okay? So really, again, no change here for the dollar yen, but some really nice clean levels to play here if we do get that move from the yen basket of currencies here over the coming weeks below that 2020 trend line, okay? So looking at gold, guys, to finish up, XAUUSD, we have the market breaking out from this bull flag back here. So you can see we had a breakout on this candle, round a retest down here, new support, and follow through. Now, currently, the market is sitting right there at those highs, right around 34.30. And this is going to be resistance going into next week. I mean, right now, you can see where the market closed just above this mark back here, this high. But, I mean, ultimately, when you look at this as an area, right, this is not enough of a breakout to call this a confirmed breakout going into next week. So in my opinion, the market is still sitting there right around that resistance area. And then we've got a secondary resistance above that this week up here around 3,500. Okay, so pretty simple, guys, right there for gold. I think if we do get the pullback, though, I would be looking at areas like this down here. So all these highs through here, somewhere in this region, right? Like if we get the pullback down here into this pocket right through here. In fact, let's look at the 4 hours, see if we can find something a little bit better here. So I would say if you're looking at, this area through here, right, this is going to be probably the one that gold has to hold through here on a 4 hour closing basis. If you see it get below here, then we could see a return down here to the lows. But as long as it stays above here next week, then we could get that break above 34.30. Okay. And again, from there, 3,500 and then price discovery. So I'm not a fundamental trader, guys, but it's pretty clear that gold is benefiting from all of the uncertainty out there in the world and really has been for a very long time. So no change there to that. This market is looking very bullish again, coming out of that bull flag. And what we talked about before too, you can see up here, 3650. You can see that this right here is the bull flag objective that we talked about before. So if you take a trend line down here from the low up here to the high and give yourself an approximate, objective from the low down here during the bull flag, you get an area up here right around 3650. Okay, so this is essentially the objective of this bull flag breakout that we saw here recently. So again, breakout, retest down here, this is the objective. All right, but you've obviously got resistance levels ahead of that. But if we get above these, then 3650 could come into play. All right, that's it for today's video, guys. I hope it helped. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and also subscribe to Blueberry Markets. See the link in the description of this video. Have a great weekend. I will talk to you again on Monday.